Frodo smelled a sweet fragrance on the air, and heard the sound of singing that came over the water. And then it seemed to him that, as in his dream in the house of Bombadil, the grey rain curtain turned all to silver glass and was rolled back, and he beheld white shores, and beyond them, a far green country under a swift sunrise. Hey everyone, Yoyston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today I want to take another look at the character of Tom Bombadil, but this time from the perspective of, is he even important? Or is he just an unnecessary and quirky character in the lore? Some helpful articles and videos are in the description and cards, my friends. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. The prompt for this video comes from some discourse that I have seen regarding this character of Tom Bombadil, and even some comments I myself have made. Tom Bombadil is noticeably absent from the movies, which is where much of this conversation comes from. And while many book fans have since lamented this absence, others are certainly okay with that choice. In fact, not only are some Lord of the Rings fans okay with the choice, but they prefer it, seeing the Tom Bombadil chapters in the Fellowship of the Ring as some of the jokiest, strangest, and most unnecessary of all of the chapters of the Lord of the Rings, with the character and his quirks also being rather unnecessary. Now, personally, I agree with Peter Jackson's choice to omit the character from the movies, as I think Tom would not have translated across the mediums very well, especially considering that the movies are already as long as they are. However, let's talk more about the character himself in the books, his chapters in the narrative, and see how important he really is or is not. Tom Bombadil, oldest and fatherless, is the master of the Old Forest, east of Buckland, southwest of Breland. Indeed, he is ancient in the matters of the world, and even the elves regard him as such. He is married to Goldberry, the River Daughter, who is just as enigmatic and strange as he is. Tom is well known for his merry singing voice, his bright blue jacket, and his yellow boots. He is quite interesting and powerful in the text of the story. I personally do quite like him in the story, as he saves the hobbits from Old Man Willow, a powerful tree who threatened to slay the hobbits in their sleep, as well as the Barrow-wights, undead creatures in the nearby Barrow Downs. Also, he is notable to be the only character in the Lord of the Rings story who is unaffected by the One Ring, so much so that he could make it disappear and reappear, and see through its effects when Frodo wore it. He is the most powerful character we see in the Lord of the Rings by itself. However, since Tom is unaffected by the One Ring, and does not care at all for such evil artifacts, he does present an uncaring and kind of disconnected nature regarding it and the greater narrative with its destruction. So much so that he is not reliable to play a greater role in the War of the Ring, as it is said at the Council of Elrond. However, the role he does play in the narrative, which is primarily serving as a place for the hobbits to stay and recuperate on the first leg of their journey, is important to the characters that go through such events. Gandalf also then goes on to visit him later, near the end of the story, and those are the major parts of Tom Bombadil. So, how important is he? Well, to be honest, I don't think there's enough evidence to conclude that Tom Bombadil is vitally important to the overarching story of the destruction of the ring himself. As Jackson showed us that omitting the Old Forest, House of Tom Bombadil, and Barrow Downs chapters, while it certainly took away something from the world building in the movies, was not detrimental to the story at large. However, this is not to say that Tom Bombadil is pointless or unimportant entirely, as he is, in my opinion, actually important in his own ways as a player in the story, but most importantly, in the themes of Middle-earth. First, the Old Forest to Bree is just a wonderful part of the tale for its world building, in my opinion, amongst other things. Other than The Hobbit and the bits we get from the Silmarillion and its later publication, this is the first step of the journey, which lends itself to opening up the vastness of Eriador and Middle-earth at large in many ways, and I think the enigmatic nature of Tom and Goldberry and their settings are great ways to do it. But I also think they make for great early mentors of our characters. Quora user Curtis Lindsay says it best in an article linked in the description. Tom Bombadil is everything that Sauron is not, and is in many ways antithetical to him. To paraphrase what he said in his post, Sauron is very invested in dominating this Middle-earth, and tries to be aware of as much as he can going on inside it that is trying to oppose his will, and overcoming it, while Tom is completely fine with a majority of the peoples of Middle-earth not even knowing he exists, let alone trying to overtake and dominate them, even though with his level of inexplicable power he probably could. Thematically, Tom is the beautiful star that could never be touched by the darkness of Mordor. To use that moment from Sam in Mordor as a bit of a representation for this character. Tom represents the nature of Middle-earth in many ways, like how Treebeard only took action when Sauron imposed upon the Ents. Alongside nature, Tom is also quite affiliated with music, which is another powerful force alongside nature in Arda. Music was there at the beginning, for music created the world. And though some can try to control it, like Melkor adding discord to it, music is free and beyond tyranny. Yet still, Tom is overall aligned with goodness, love, and compassion, as nature and music are, but he is in many ways, like music and nature, greater than the War of the Ring at hand, and thus he does not become really involved with it. His power and desire are not at all connected to the One Ring because he and the things he represents are beyond it. And I think that is what makes him important. He's a reminder to Frodo, as is the memory of him and his house throughout Frodo's journey, that the shadow is only a passing thing, not an all-encompassing thing. Tom embodies the hope that, while the world seems doomed to fall under darkness at times, there were aspects of the world that could never be conquered. Sure, Sauron could impose on nature and even impose directly on the Old Forest, but he could never quite dominate it in the ways that he would have wanted. And that's how I feel about Tom. To continue on this point, another part of these chapters that I love is the dream that Frodo has in the House of Tom Bombadil, transitioning from sleep to waking reality, depicting a song that seemed to come like a pale light beyond a gray rain curtain, and growing stronger to turn the veil all to glass and silver, until at last it was rolled back, and a far green country opened before him under a swift sunrise. Like my quote from the beginning of this video, which was actually taken from the end of The Return of the King, it is quite fitting that Frodo's first glimpse at Valinor and the Uttermost West was in a dream in the House of Bombadil. Again, he and his home, these parts of the book, really serve to show Frodo that there are things beyond the War of the Ring. Frodo does have other dreams in the House of Bombadil that may be worth examining in a similar context, but for me, this is the one that really stands out. This dream in the House of Bombadil depicts that the darkness is but a passing thing, an important trial for Frodo in no small part, the adventure of his lifetime, but one that will pass, and one he will come to the other side of, and eventually, when that veil is rolled back, he would find peace. It is no coincidence that this happens in the House of Bombadil, who is the most powerful and most removed character that Frodo comes across during his tale. Tom is so removed, in fact, that, in my mind, if Tom Bombadil was not mentioned by other characters, and at other moments in the story, one could be forgiven for thinking that Tom might not exist at all, and may have been a symbolic, thematic, or imaginary point in Frodo's story, especially in the context of a frame narrative written by the characters who went through these events and some other revisionists afterwards, simply because of what he represents. But just because this is so, and Bombadil may not be overly important in the destruction of the ring, other than in the moments where he saved the ring-bearer and his friends from certain death, Tom Bombadil is certainly, absolutely important in a world-building, theme-establishing view of the Lord of the Rings. He adds a joyful optimism, a natural mysticism and symbolism, and a reminder that the darkness of Sauron is not as all-encompassing to Middle-earth as it may seem. But my friends, let me know your thoughts. Do you enjoy the inclusion of Tom Bombadil in the books? Did you miss him in the movies? Is he truly as important as I believe him to be, or is he in fact an overrated part of the book? Let me know in the comments below. And so, my friends, we come to the end of our tale. From the importance of Tom Bombadil, we see that, no matter the darkness we face, it is not all-encompassing. With compassion and merriment in our hearts, we can be as an untouchable star beyond the veil of shadow. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this with a friend. What are your thoughts on all of this? Please do let me know in the comments below. I'm excited to see what you all think. I do enjoy the presence of Bombadil, and I do not think he overstays his welcome in the book, and I do like seeing him in game adaptations, while I do also understand his lack of presence in the movie. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider getting some candles from our friends Mythologie Candles, or order some Weta or United Cutlery Lord of the Rings swords, statues, and other replicas from Castle Kon, who does international shipping, and use the code WEST at checkout. Please check out our merch and Patreon. Thanks to our Valor tier patrons and YouTube members, Peter Shepard, Jonathan Putnam, Blair Scout and Merton, John Hume, Sam McBee, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Reese Jenkins, Adam Petrolik, Anthony Harmon, Arthur Merlin, Dale Davis, Kingswald Project, and King of Games 2500. Thank you so much to all of our patrons and YouTube members. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today. And I'll see you all again next week with a video detailing the history of the kings of the Noldor Elves. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.